Hi guys, welcome back to Silence Screams Loud Strength. I am your host Samantha. In this episode we're going to talk about when they didn't believe me. So let's dive in. This is a safe place where we speak about our deepest wounds as survivors. We carry so much trauma, and it's not just the trauma itself, but it's also the pain of not being believed when you have a story to tell. So in this episode, for every woman who has found courage to speak and who was met with silence, doubts, and was betrayed, the most painful thing is being unheard when you finally decide to speak. Unknown. So for me personally, I remember the moment I finally said, okay, he hurt me, he controlled me, he scared me. But here's the thing. He may have hurt me, he may have controlled me. I'm not scared anymore. But when I told a friend of mine, someone I thought would hold a space for me, they replied and said, but he seems like such a nice guy. But of course he does. This is what people that manipulate, abuse women do. They are the most charismatic of them all. I felt like I was just gonna drop to the ground when her response in that moment didn't really support what I was feeling. And maybe I had so much expectation from friends. I felt like the ground underneath me was going to swallow me whole again, like I was invisible again. The disbelief hurt more than the bruises I couldn't show. That moment taught me, however, that society protects abusers by doubting survivors. But what people don't seem to understand is when you are being doubted, the wound gets stale, more raw, and more painful. Because for one to get to a stage where you are having to tell somebody, you're learning to speak, this is now your healing journey. And then when someone disbelieves, discredits your lived experience, that hurts a lot. But why our survivors aren't believed? There is this twist of expectation that we must be perfect victims also to be believed. So we are not perfect. We need to cry, but not too much. Be broken, but still coherent. Have proof, but not be too obsessed with collecting it. So people say things like, you stayed, so it couldn't have been that bad. Or if that was real, you should have told someone sooner. Oh, wow, okay. But they didn't understand the trauma. They don't actually understand what trauma does to the victim. So now you're not only fighting for survival and fighting to be believed and fighting to heal, you're also now fighting the narrative that people don't believe you because your own DNA has been altered. You have this illness now that cripples you and you are not able to function how a healthy, normal person would. So of course I stayed because my body was in a state of arrest. My mind was arrested in this trauma. I had fear. I didn't even understand that I was going through trauma myself. So how was I supposed to get up and go? You know, they don't understand what is clustered as survival mode. So most victims are in the survival mode until they actually get to understand what the body is telling them. But it's difficult to actually get there when your body is always in the fight-flight mode. So it's hard to then want to confront the horror that someone they knew might have been capable of causing harm. Well, they did cause harm. They caused a lot of harm behind closed doors, in the car, in wherever space that he could just abuse me whenever it felt good for them. So, you know, the injustice within the injustice. One of the most devastating parts of my own legal battle, let's say, was watching the system side with my abuser. So it wasn't just disbelief, it was dismissal, no protection, no recognition, just bureaucracy and bias wrapped, polished in court language. And if you have ever been denied justice, you know this. Your truth does not become less real because the judge or the police officer or your loved ones have refused to acknowledge it. They all become part of the system that has failed you and not you failing them. Because also what they don't seem to understand is while you are going through trauma and having to meet court deadlines or things like this, you are not actually supposed to be going through those things, especially when you're a litigant in person, because you're not fit to process and be coherent, articulate your case in a logical way, which means you need to be safeguarded in order to have somebody appointed to be your mouthpiece, be a lawyer or someone that you can trust. So how can you then trust anyone when no one believes you? You know, it's a real bad place to be when you find yourself in these narratives where everything is just so hard. But life has to go on, doesn't it? So I want to just remind you that this is when it's very important to have those tender moments where you go gently with yourself. You think of a time you told someone what happened and they didn't believe you, and you ask, what did you need in that moment? What did you need? What would you say to that version of you now? Even when they don't or they didn't believe me, I still knew within my inner self that, you know, the truth will always rise. The truth takes time to come out, but it does. So you don't need anyone's permission to own your truth. You just have to hold on to it, because that's all you have at the end of the day. So I'd like to empower you today and cultivate some calm and empower delivery into yourself. If you want to do this affirmation with me, you can stand in stillness or sit down and let your legs land on the ground. You can place your hands wherever it pleases you today and repeat after me. I believe myself. My experience is valid. Their denial does not erase my truth. I trust what I know. My voice is enough. And your voice is truly enough. So, being disbelieved cannot make you feel like you have lost your reality, because you haven't. But let me remind you that you didn't imagine it. You didn't make it up. You survived it. And that's all the truth you need. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone that needs to hear it. Let another survivor know that they are not crazy. You are not crazy. You are not alone. And you are not lying. Do connect with me on Instagram at semijawaa. Share your story. Let's build a positive community and support and empower each other. I am here for you. Continue to come back to this episode, to this podcast. I believe that I'm creating a really grounding place for healing for most of us that have been silenced. So let's learn one episode at a time as we begin to rebuild a new system for ourselves that centers our voices, that never allows anyone to be silenced ever again. And don't be silent for too long. You are not alone. You are not what happened to you. You are unshakable and you are believed on this platform. Stay true to yourself and enjoy moments of clarity when they arise. See you in the next episode.